Alright, this is Joker here. We have the strategy setup that I'm going to pretty much be utilizing from now on. It's still the range strategy, it's just a modification. Primarily the 1 minute and the hourly charts are going to be my two main uh, ones I use. And we're going to use the 10 EMA, which is the green line here, which I'm going to change that to teal to be easier to see. The 35 EMA, which is the red one, and then the 100 EMA, which is the purple one. Um, the purple EMA, you can almost treat it like VWAP in a sense, but the rules are going to be real simple in all of this. Um, and that is that we only enter long if we're below the purple, the 100 EMA on the 1 minute. And ideally, you want to be at the bottom of your range on the hourly. So, like, perfect example for going, the best time to have gone long into Amazon was this morning at about 7 o'clock. Oh, sorry, closer to 8 o'clock. So, if you look, you had the sell off here, and on the 1 hour, you went into the 35 EMA, right? But you also had a nice, I guess, sweep or wick or whatever you want to call it form here that closed here at 8 o'clock, right? But instead of waiting to get in maybe up here at 192.03, if you were waiting for this guy to break above on your hourly, you would have gone to your 1 minute and you could have been in a lot sooner. And there's two reasons why you would have traded it this way. So you are at the bottom of a range here because if you scroll over, you could see you have the bottom of a range here from the overnight low. So you have a support here, right? And if you zoom out more, bottom of the range. And if you look on your hourly, you hit the bottom of a range. There's your bottom of range on your overnight. And then of course if we just put ourselves a price line here, you can see that you are on a price level. That used to be a high, that used to be a high, you've got some trading in there, and now it's a low, right? So you're at the bottom of a range here, and you've got support proven right here. So you know you're at the bottom of a range, number one. So our entry trigger, what's our entry trigger? Entry trigger is we are below the 100 EMA, period, right? That's our general rule. Number two, our 10 EMA has crossed over our 35 EMA, and we've got buying, right? So now you could buy right in here. Your stop is going to be right under here because you're at the bottom of your range. If you break the bottom of your range, you're in trouble. So you want to buy right here. So at 747, instead of waiting till what time did that guy break 192.03? Um, hell, I don't know. 807, 811. You were in 20 minutes sooner. Do you want with this strategy on the 1 minute? And you have a much shorter stop. Target could be a couple different things, but usually you're going to go to the top of your range, 195.37. It's going to give you about a $4 range right there. about $4 on the option. Now, you can choose, obviously, the general idea might be to go with the strike at the top of that level, whatever expiry out you want based on your risk and time and etc., right? But for the sake of argument, I pulled up the 200 call for October 24th, or October 11th, sorry, right? So if you bought this guy right at the EMA crossover time, which was 7:49, your cost would have been about $1.20 to, let's just say, even $1.22, right? And you held that the entire time. So you're at $1.20. Notice it never came back, even with everything, never came back below $1.24. So you were never red on the trade all day by entering at the bottom of the range, even with the crossover. Yeah, you were about $20, $19 lower here, but um, that is uh, that's about 20 bucks. That's a $20 risk. So if you'd bought 5 contracts, that's a $100 risk. If you'd bought 10 contracts, that's a $200 risk. And if you were targeting the top of your range, which you could see was 219 up here, your uh, your profit's about $100, which gives you a 5-to-1 risk to reward. And so you're risking $200 to make $1,000, roughly, right? So generally speaking, that would be your entry. Also over here, it is support on your 35 EMA. Usually the deeper the pullback you can get, the better for the deeper range back up. But if you decide to enter later on, right, you're going to want to pull back into like your 10 EMA on your hourly. So I think it was like 10:38ish my time. You said you had bought calls, um, which, or at least is when I had gotten the notification, which would have put you in somewhere right about here. And if we were to say the cost based on these guys would have been about $1.40, right? So the tough part with that is, of course, I had a pullback and it came all the way down to $1.27, which is a $13 per contract loss, with the possibility of coming back farther, um, which isn't necessarily a knock on you, um, but uh, but what I've noticed is we both can do much better on our entries. So one thing that I've seen here is that instead of entering up here, because I enter high a lot of times too, that's not the way to go, right? So what we want to do is we want to wait for this pullback, because as soon as you have this EMA crossover here, this is a signal to go short, because you got a short return, right? Now it's a very short trade, but somebody could have traded shorts right here, from here all the way down to here, and made money, you know. But that's not our goal, right? If we're trying to go long, because overall we're still long. So what we want to do is wait for this guy to come down and give us another crossover right here. So the better entry would have been right here, somewhere right in here. You could have potentially bought early right here where you see this low and this higher low, right? Because you see a base right here if you wanted to. Or you could have waited for here, which is fine, and bought at 1209, which your cost would have been 130. and it closed the day at 161. So you'd have already been up 30 bucks. Um, and it's a bounce off of that 10 EMA. So I think regardless of what we're trading and how we're trading it, you and I both need to be entering under, because you and I are both, in my opinion, from what I've seen, you and I both like to enter high and we lose money. Okay, it's hurting us. So ideally, you want to enter in the bottom of the hourly range, right? Entering in the middle of a range is probably not the way we want to go about it, but doesn't mean we can't. Doesn't mean there's not a good entry here, but ideally, we want to enter the bottom of a range, especially with futures, right? So, at the end of the day, your better entry for re-entry was right here. If you're going to get into the trade. Now, after hours, there's a little bit of selling here, but what else is new? Point being, that's the entry model I would look at is your best bet would have been, even if you'd entered at $1.20 earlier today and you'd waited till the end of the day and sold it, you could have sold it for $1.60. That's a 30% return. Or even if you'd sold it somewhere in here, it's close to 30%. We just held the trade. So, I'm going to switch over to futures here. Okay, so futures similar, right? So I know I sent screenshots earlier, but the hourly is going to give us our range, obviously. So this morning, we had that huge dump out, right? And I was like, dude, look at this. So here's our hourly range was set here. We had that huge dump, and then we had this huge zip right back up on the NQ. There's like the hourly bar at 7 o'clock. So if we go back to that, which is this guy right here, it's 7:41. So we're dumping, 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 dumping. We don't want to be long anywhere in here at all because that's bad news bears, right? So we wait here till about 7:49. You go long right here. 2006. So you'd have been bought in at, let's just say if you bought in marketed right there, you'd have been about 2017, right? 20017 with your stop down at 19,952, which, you know, is a fair amount. It's what, 48, 17, 58, 65 points. If you did, let's just say 5 micros, that's $650, right? Um, but then if you targeted the top of the range at 154, 19 to 154 is 135. And if you take that times 10, that's 1,350 bucks, which gives you a little over a 2-to-1 risk to reward. And then, of course, as the trade continues to move up, you can move your stop up here anyway, and then your risk is significantly reduced, especially once you cross over the 100 EMA. But same strategy, right? 10 crosses the 35, buy in, ride that sucker. The cool part about this guy, though, is he absolutely went above that line and he hit a previous high over here. Actually blew through the previous high of 2195. So if you zoomed out to your hourly, you could have targeted here for profit, but with a hammer like this, especially off of the 100 EMA, it just shot up, and you could have targeted up there, and he hit 196. So when you're talking being in at what I say 13, 19, um, roughly 18, uh, and you hit 196, that's a 178 point uh, move, and if you have a $10 per point trade, that's $1,780, and if you risk $650, that's close to a 3 to 1. And then additionally, if you and the cool part is, and you're in at 2016 all the way down here, which on this guy is all the way down here. You got in all the way down here based on EMA crossover instead of waiting all the way up here for this guy. And so you were able to take points all all the way from here all the way up to here because you just had this ginormous range retrace. That's where our money's going to be. So I think we just have to realize that when we do have these shorter trades, that we take them and get out. But if we have these deep pullbacks, this crossover is going to be money for us, no matter what we're trading. So that's the strategy that I'm going to start utilizing. Right now, I think your Amazon calls look good because um, NQ is still going long on the 1 minute. It's going long on the hourly. And so Amazon should pick back up. I wouldn't worry too much about it. But yeah, this is going to be the strategy I'm utilizing from now on no matter what. My goal is always going to be I want to be below at the bottom of a range. If I enter somewhere in here, it's just going to be a short scalp, short trade. But dude, you had this awesome return in here. You got in here and you still had this awesome push up. So don't sweat it too much. If you zoom out to a 4 hour, um, you got this great doji here. You got buying. You got this EMA support here. So I would be targeting this guy right here for getting out, especially if you've got time on the contracts. Just target right there if you want your money, you know? Um, or sell half here, target, target up there, target up here. Amazon's probably could very well hit a new all-time high for all we know, but especially if he breaks 196.63, next stop 200, man. Go for it. I think you got a great entry there, so especially with momentum and everything else, I think you're fine. But the other cool part too, though, is you can use this EMA crossover strategy on the higher time frames. I mean, look at this. If a guy had bought calls right here on this day, say in a day or somewhere in here, look at that. EMA crossover, you're sitting right on the EMA. If you bought calls right here, or you bought calls off of this hammer, but more importantly, if you just bought them here, right, and say you sold them at the top of the range, because here's the top of your range. If you bought calls down here, this gives you confirmation. You get to sold your calls the next day. Moved up, $4 or $5. So something to think about. But that's how I'm gonna be working. I'm working off the 1 minute and the hourly. But this strategy is gonna be my primary strategy, whether it's futures, whether it's options. I don't care. That's what I'm going with. So if you have any questions, man, let me know. And yeah, this is what I'm gonna be looking at everything based on. And I'm always gonna be trying to enter at the bottom of a range versus later on if I can. So that way you get more money. And hopefully we can get our Zoom call set up here later.